I am Natalie Mitchell, 27 years old, and I just received the most infuriating phone call of my life. My stepmother Patricia was practically gloating. "I sold your house to teach you a lesson about respect," she sneered through the phone. "The new owners move in next week." Her voice dripped with satisfaction, thinking she had finally won. Little did she know about my secret meeting with Dad's lawyer last month. "Good luck with that," I replied calmly. If you are enjoying this story so far, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you are watching from. I would love to hear your thoughts as this wild ride unfolds. My father, Robert Mitchell, was my rock. Growing up, it was just the two of us in our beautiful Victorian home on Maple Street after my mother left when I was only 4. Dad built his construction business from nothing, working late nights and weekends to provide a stable life for me. We were incredibly close, sharing Sunday morning pancake traditions and summer fishing trips to Lake Michigan. He taught me how to change a tire, how to stand up for myself, and most importantly, how to recognize the good in people. Usually anyway. 5 years ago, Dad met Patricia at a charity fundraiser. She was charming, attentive, and seemed genuinely interested in his stories about restoration projects. I was 22 then, finishing college and happy to see my father smiling again. They dated for 6 months before he proposed. The wedding was small but elegant, and Patricia played the part of the devoted wife perfectly. Looking back, I should have noticed how her eyes calculated the value of everything in our home. For the first few years, things were relatively peaceful. Patricia redecorated the house, replacing our comfortable, lived-in furniture with expensive modern pieces. Dad didn't mind, he just wanted her to be happy. I had moved into my own apartment by then, but visited every weekend. Patricia was always cordial when Dad was in the room, but her smile never reached her eyes when she looked at me. When Dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer last year, everything changed. Patricia transformed overnight. Her headaches prevented her from driving him to chemotherapy appointments, so that became my responsibility. She complained about the medical equipment in their bedroom disrupting her sleep, so she moved into the guest room. While I took family leave to care for him, Patricia was mysteriously absent, shopping or at spa appointments. As Dad grew weaker, he became more observant. One afternoon, when Patricia was out, he squeezed my hand and whispered, "Natalie, after I am gone, go see Marcus Reynolds. He has something for you." Marcus was his longtime attorney and friend. I promised I would, not knowing how significant that instruction would become. Dad passed away 3 months ago. At the funeral, Patricia wore an expensive black dress and accepted condolences with theatrical sniffles, but no real tears. Several times, I caught her checking her watch. My genuine grief seemed to irritate her, as though my tears were an inconvenience or, worse, a performance that outshined hers. The days following the funeral were a blur of paperwork and phone calls. Patricia wasted no time in asserting her authority over the house. "You should take what personal items you want soon," she told me over coffee, her tone businesslike. "I am planning to make some changes." The will reading at Marcus Reynolds' office was scheduled for 2 weeks after the funeral. Patricia arrived in a designer suit, perfectly manicured and coiffed. I wore the simple blue dress Dad always liked. Marcus began reading the document, and Patricia's smile grew as Dad's assets were listed. According to the will dated 3 years ago, Patricia inherited the house, the business, and most of his financial accounts. I received a small trust fund and Dad's vintage car collection. Patricia barely concealed her triumph, shooting me a look that clearly said she had won. I was confused. Dad had always promised the house would be mine someday. It had been in our family for 3 generations. Had he changed his mind? The house contained all my childhood memories, the height markings on the kitchen doorframe, the window seat where Dad read me stories, the backyard tree house he built with his own hands. The thought of losing it felt like losing a part of him all over again. As we left the attorney's office, Patricia touched my arm. "I will give you 2 weeks to remove your things from the attic and garage," she said, her voice falsely sweet. "After that, I am having everything hauled away." That night, Alone in my apartment, I remembered Dad's instruction to see Marcus privately. Through my tears, I wondered what my father had known that I was only beginning to understand. 1 week after the will reading, I scheduled a private appointment with Marcus Reynolds. His office was in a historic downtown building, walls lined with law books and family photos. Marcus had been Dad's friend since college, their relationship extending far beyond legal matters. When I arrived, his secretary ushered me directly into his office. "Natalie, thank you for coming," Marcus said, standing to greet me. "Your father wanted to make sure we had this conversation." He gestured to a leather chair across from his desk. "What I am about to share with you was very important to Robert." Marcus opened a drawer and removed a thick manila envelope. "About 8 months ago, when your father's prognosis became clear, he came to me with concerns about Patricia's intentions. He placed the envelope on the desk between us. Robert suspected Patricia had married him primarily for financial reasons, and her behavior during his illness confirmed his suspicions." My throat tightened. "He never said anything to me. He didn't want to burden you with his marital problems while you were already dealing with his illness," Marcus explained. "Instead, he took steps to protect what mattered most." Marcus opened the envelope and spread out several legal documents. 6 months before his death, your father transferred ownership of the house to you through a quit-claim deed. We filed it with the county, but kept the arrangement private. Patricia has no idea. I stared at the papers, my name clearly listed as the property owner. But at the will reading, the will reflected his assets at the time it was created, 3 years ago, Marcus explained. Your father never updated it because he wanted Patricia to believe she would inherit everything. He knew if she discovered the truth while he was still alive, it would make his final months even more difficult. Marcus showed me additional documents, the property tax records now in my name, utility bills Dad had set up for automatic transfer to my accounts after his death, and homeowner's insurance documentation. All the legal requirements had been quietly handled to ensure my ownership was ironclad. Your father also left this for you, Marcus said, handing me a sealed envelope with my name written in Dad's handwriting. With trembling fingers, I opened it. My dearest Natalie, if you are reading this, I am gone. And you have followed my instructions to meet with Marcus. I am sorry for the deception, but I needed to protect you and our family home from Patricia. I realized too late the kind of woman she truly is. The house is yours, as it always should be. It belongs to the family who loves it, who understands its history and its heart. Patricia only sees its market value. Be strategic in how you handle this information. Patricia will not take this well, and I want to spare you as much conflict as possible. Marcus will guide you through the legal aspects. Remember that I am proud of you always. Love, Dad. Tears streamed down my face as I folded the letter. My father had protected me one final time. What should I do now? I asked Marcus, wiping my eyes. That depends on what you want, he replied. Legally, you could take possession immediately. Patricia has no right to be in the house without your permission. I considered my options. Patricia believed she had all the power, and that position made her dangerous. What if I wait? See what she does. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. That might be wise. Sometimes giving people enough rope allows them to reveal their true character. Just know that any action she takes regarding the house, selling it, renovating it, even removing fixtures, would be illegal without your consent. We developed a plan. I would temporarily move in with my friend Sarah to avoid daily conflicts with Patricia. Meanwhile, Marcus would monitor the legal situation, ready to intervene when necessary. The property tax bills and utilities would continue to be paid automatically from accounts Dad had set up. Your father was a good man, Marcus said as our meeting concluded. He deserved better than Patricia. I left his office feeling both empowered and apprehensive. The house was legally mine, but confronting Patricia would require careful timing. For now, I would follow Dad's advice and be strategic. The next day, I packed essential items from my childhood bedroom while Patricia was at her spa appointment. I took photo albums, my grandmother's quilt, and Dad's favorite books, irreplaceable things Patricia might destroy out of spite. As I was loading my car, she returned, watching me with obvious satisfaction. Finally accepting reality? She asked, leaning against her luxury SUV. Just getting organized, I replied neutrally. Patricia smiled coldly. I am meeting with a real estate agent tomorrow. This neighborhood has become very desirable. I could make a fortune. I bit my tongue and drove away, her words echoing in my mind. She had no idea what was coming. Over the next few weeks, Patricia's behavior became increasingly hostile. 3 days after I moved my essential belongings to Sarah's apartment, I returned to collect more items only to discover Patricia had changed all the locks. When I called her, she answered with fake concern. Oh, did I forget to give you the new keys? I have been so scattered since your father passed. Security is important, you know. There have been break-ins in the neighborhood. I need to get the rest of my things, Patricia, I said, trying to keep my voice level. Of course, dear. How about next Tuesday? Between 2 and 4? I have so many appointments these days. When Tuesday arrived, Patricia accidentally scheduled a house showing with her real estate agent during my designated time. I sat in my car across the street, watching potential buyers tour what was legally my house. The realtor placed a "coming soon" sign in the front yard before they left. I called Marcus immediately. She is already showing the house. Can she actually sell it? No, he reassured me. Any sale would be fraudulent and invalid. But we should document everything she is doing. Take photos of the real estate sign and any evidence of her attempts to sell. The following weekend, Patricia permitted me to collect more belongings, supervising as though I might steal something. Walking through my childhood home felt surreal. Patricia had already removed family photos from the walls, replacing them with generic artwork. Dad's chair was gone from the living room, and the kitchen had been staged with decorative items that had never been used for actual cooking. Where is Dad's leather chair? I asked, noticing the empty corner in the den. Donated, Patricia said dismissively. It was worn and outdated. My stomach clenched. That chair was where Dad had recovered after his first rounds of chemotherapy, where he had sat every evening reading the newspaper, where he had held me when I cried after college breakups. Now it was gone, discarded like trash. And his books? The collection from his office? Patricia examined her manicure. Some man from the university took them yesterday. He gave me $800, which seemed fair for old books. Dad's rare first editions of Hemingway and Steinbeck, his prized possessions that he had planned to pass down to me, sold for a fraction of their value. I swallowed hard, reminding myself that the house and everything that truly mattered would eventually be reclaimed. As I packed my remaining clothes from the bedroom closet, I noticed my grandmother's antique jewelry box was missing from the dresser. When confronted, Patricia feigned ignorance. Perhaps you already packed it? Or maybe the cleaning service misplaced it. They were quite thorough after Robert passed. The jewelry itself was not particularly valuable, but it contained my mother's wedding ring and my grandmother's pearls, family heirlooms meant for me. I strongly suspected Patricia had either sold them or hidden them away. Each interaction with Patricia became more difficult. She accidentally broke a framed photo of my father and me fishing. She claimed water damage had ruined boxes of my childhood mementos in the attic, though the roof had never leaked. She held impromptu open houses where strangers wandered through rooms filled with my family's history. Sarah became my emotional anchor during this time. Her spare bedroom became my temporary sanctuary, decorated with the few meaningful items I had managed to rescue from the house. She cannot get away with this, Sarah insisted one evening as I tearfully recounted discovering Patricia had sold Dad's vintage record collection. Marcus says we need to wait, I explained. If we reveal my ownership now, she will fight it, claim Dad was not in his right mind when he transferred the deed. It will mean a lengthy court battle. Meanwhile, she is selling everything that matters. Not everything, I said, touching the envelope containing Dad's letter. And we are documenting it all. Marcus says it strengthens my case when we do confront her. 2 months after Dad's death. Patricia called me unexpectedly. I have decided to list the house officially next week, she announced. The market is hot right now, and I want to maximize my return. That house has been in my family for generations, I said, my voice catching. And now it is mine, Patricia replied coldly. Your father left it to me, not you. Perhaps if you had been more supportive during our marriage, things might be different. Her revisionist history infuriated me. I had been the one driving Dad to treatments while she shopped for designer clothes. I had been the one sleeping in the hospital chair while she complained about the disruption to her social schedule. You are making a mistake, I warned her. Patricia laughed. The mistake was your father's, thinking you deserved anything after how disrespectful you were to me. Consider this a life lesson. Natalie, actions have consequences. After hanging up, I immediately called Marcus. She is listing the house next week. Let her, he advised. Every action she takes without your consent, as the legal owner, strengthens our position. We will let this play out a bit longer. But what if someone actually buys it? I cannot let strangers move into my house. Any sale would be null and void, Marcus assured me. The title search will eventually reveal the truth. But it might be better to let her get to that point before we intervene. Right now, she could claim confusion or ignorance. If she actually attempts to sell property she does not own, the legal consequences become much more serious. I reluctantly agreed to his strategy, though watching Patricia's real estate listing go live the following week was excruciating. The professional photos showcased a house I barely recognized, staged, impersonal, stripped of the warmth that had made it a home. The asking price was almost double what the property was worth, even in the current market. Over the next 2 weeks, I drove by regularly, watching potential buyers come and go. Patricia installed a lockbox for real estate agents and moved most of her things to a luxury apartment downtown, telling neighbors she was downsizing after her tragic loss. She continued selling or disposing of family items, including Dad's tools and workshop equipment that represented decades of his craftsmanship. Each loss felt like grieving Dad all over again. But I clung to the knowledge that Patricia's actions were digging her into a deeper legal hole. Marcus documented everything, building a case that would eventually lead to her downfall. I just had to be patient, though my patience was wearing increasingly thin. I sold your house to teach you a lesson about respect. Patricia sneered over the phone 3 weeks after listing the property. The new owners move in next week. Her voice contained undisguised triumph, and I could picture her smug expression. After a moment of stunned silence, I remembered Marcus's coaching for this inevitable moment. Good luck with that, I replied calmly. My response clearly irritated her. She had expected tears or pleading. The Bradfords signed the papers yesterday, she continued, trying to provoke a reaction. They offered $50,000 above asking price. Cash deal. No contingencies. The closing is scheduled for Monday. I gripped the phone tighter. Congratulations. They're planning to gut the entire first floor, Patricia added venomously. Open concept is very popular now. That hideous wood paneling in the study that you and your father were so attached to, that will be the first thing to go. The paneling had been installed by my grandfather, each piece hand-selected and finished. Dad and I had spent an entire summer refinishing it when I was 16. I swallowed hard, reminding myself that the Bradfords would never get the chance to touch it. Is there anything else, Patricia? I asked, my voice remarkably steady. Her frustration at my composure was palpable. Just that I am using the money to buy a beachfront condo in Florida. I think your father would have wanted me to enjoy my widowhood in comfort, do not you? I think my father would have wanted a lot of things, I replied. Goodbye, Patricia. After hanging up, I immediately called Marcus. She did it. She actually sold the house. Closing is Monday. Perfect, Marcus said, sounding satisfied. Now we can act. I will contact the title company today and provide proof of your ownership. The sale cannot proceed without clear title. What about the buyers? The Bradfords? They did not do anything wrong. They will be informed before closing. It is unfortunate they were caught in Patricia's scheme, but legally, they have no claim to the property. I felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. After months of watching Patricia dismantle my family home piece by piece, the confrontation was finally coming. Part of me wanted to see her face when she realized her plan had failed spectacularly. Another part dreaded the inevitable drama. Later that afternoon, Marcus called back. The title company has been notified. They are contacting Patricia's real estate agent now. I expect we will hear from her very soon. We did not have to wait long. My phone rang barely an hour later, Patricia's name flashing on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called 3 more times in rapid succession, then sent a series of increasingly frantic text messages. What have you done? The title company says there is a problem with the house. Fix this now. If this is some kind of trick, you will regret it. I forwarded the messages to Marcus without responding to Patricia directly. He advised me to continue ignoring her for now. Let her stew. The more agitated she becomes, the more likely she is to reveal her true intentions when we do meet. Patricia showed up at Sarah's apartment that evening, pounding on the door and shouting my name. Sarah and I watched through the peephole as she alternated between threats and false concern about my mental state to neighbors who emerged to investigate the commotion. Eventually, she left a crumpled envelope taped to the door. Inside was a handwritten note demanding I contact her before making accusations that could damage both our reputations. The next morning, Marcus arranged a meeting at his office for the following day, Saturday, 3 days before the scheduled closing. All parties would be present: Patricia, the Bradfords, their respective real estate agents, the title company representative, Marcus, and me. Patricia attempted to have the meeting at her attorney's office instead, but Marcus held firm, pointing out that as the legal property owner, I had the right to determine the venue. That night, I barely slept, rehearsing what I would say when face-to-face with Patricia. Sarah helped me select an outfit that projected confidence, a navy blue blazer over a simple white blouse, similar to what I wore for important presentations in my marketing job. You own that house and this situation, she reminded me. Walk in like it. Despite my preparation, my stomach churned with anxiety as I parked outside Marcus's office building. Patricia's luxury car was already there, as was an expensive SUV I assumed belonged to the Bradfords. Taking a deep breath, I squared my shoulders and entered the building, repeating Dad's words in my mind, "Remember that I am proud of you, always." Marcus's conference room felt crowded with tension. Patricia sat rigidly beside her real estate agent, a thin woman named Diane who kept checking her phone nervously. Across the table, Thomas and Emily Bradford, a well-dressed couple in their 40s, whispered to each other, their expressions concerned. Their agent, a man named Jeffrey, studied some paperwork with visible confusion. A woman from the title company sat at the far end, her face professionally neutral. Patricia's eyes narrowed when I entered. She had chosen an outfit that screamed wealthy widow, designer black dress, pearl necklace, immaculate makeup. The facade of grief without the substance. "Can we please get started?" she demanded as I took my seat beside Marcus. "I have a hair appointment at noon, and this ridiculous misunderstanding needs to be cleared up quickly." Marcus cleared his throat. "Thank you all for coming on short notice. I am Marcus Reynolds, attorney for Natalie Mitchell." He nodded toward the title company representative. "Ms. Garcia, perhaps you could explain the issue that has brought us here today." Ms. Garcia opened a folder. "During our standard title search for the property at 247 Maple Street, we discovered that the seller, Patricia Mitchell, is not the legal owner of record." She slid a document across the table. "According to county records, the property was transferred to Natalie Mitchell 6 months ago through a quitclaim deed signed by the previous owner, Robert Mitchell." The Bradfords exchanged alarmed glances. "This is absurd." Patricia interrupted. "My husband left me that house in his will. I have documentation." She pulled papers from her designer handbag and thrust them toward Ms. Garcia. "The will does indeed indicate your inheritance, Ms. Garcia acknowledged after reviewing the documents. However, the quitclaim deed supersedes the will because Mr. Mitchell transferred the property while still living. The house was no longer his to bequeath at the time of his death. Patricia's face flushed. This is forgery. Robert would never do this behind my back. Marcus calmly placed another document on the table. This is the notarized quitclaim deed, signed by Robert Mitchell on January 12th of this year, transferring full ownership to his daughter, Natalie Mitchell. The notary has provided an affidavit confirming Robert was of sound mind and under no duress when signing. Thomas Bradford leaned forward. Are you saying we have been attempting to purchase a house from someone who does not own it? Precisely, Marcus confirmed. Mrs. Patricia Mitchell has no legal right to sell this property. Any sale would be fraudulent. We put down a $20,000 earnest money deposit, Emily Bradford said, voice rising. We gave notice on our current home. We are supposed to move next week. Their real estate agent, Jeffrey, looked pale. The title search should have caught this earlier in the process. Normally it would have, Ms. Garcia explained. However, Mrs. Mitchell's agent requested an expedited closing with a preliminary title commitment, assuring us the property had clear title based on the will. All eyes turned to Diane, who shifted uncomfortably. Patricia assured me there would be no issues. Patricia stood abruptly. This is a conspiracy. Robert must have been manipulated when he was sick. He was on heavy medications. Natalie took advantage of his weakened state to steal what rightfully belongs to me. That is quite an accusation, Marcus said coolly. Especially considering Robert's oncologist has already provided a statement confirming he was mentally competent during the period in question. We also have Robert's letter explaining his reasons for the transfer. He did not produce the letter, which remained private between Dad and me. What reasons? Patricia demanded. What lies did he tell? I finally spoke, my voice steadier than I expected. He knew what you were doing, Patricia. He saw how you treated him when he got sick. How you were just waiting for him to die so you could cash in. He protected our family home from someone who only saw it as a payday. Patricia's composure cracked. You turned him against me. It was always the two of you, with your inside jokes and family traditions. I was never truly welcome. You were welcome, I corrected her. Until you showed your true colors. Dad might have been sick, but he was not blind. Thomas Bradford cleared his throat. While this family drama is fascinating, my primary concern is our deposit and our living situation. We were supposed to close on Monday. Marcus addressed him directly. Mr. Bradford, you and your wife are innocent parties in this situation. Your earnest money should be fully refundable since the seller misrepresented her ownership status. Misrepresented? Patricia sputtered. I did not know about this underhanded deed transfer. Ms. Garcia from the title company looked skeptical. Mrs. Mitchell. Standard procedure for any property sale includes the seller signing an affidavit stating they have disclosed all information affecting the title. You signed that document last week, affirming you were the sole owner. The implications hung in the air. Patricia had either knowingly committed fraud or signed legal documents without reading them. Neither option placed her in a favorable light. I want my attorney present, Patricia announced, reaching for her phone. That is certainly your right, Marcus agreed. However, it does not change the facts. Natalie owns the house. Any attempt to sell it was illegal. Emily Bradford turned to her husband. We need to start looking for another house immediately. She glared at Patricia. And we expect our deposit back today. The funds are in escrow. Ms. Garcia assured her. They can be returned by end of business day. What about our moving expenses? The storage unit we rented? The time we have wasted? Thomas Bradford demanded. We relied on representations made by Mrs. Mitchell and her agent. Jeffrey, their agent, nodded. You may have grounds for additional damages. Patricia paled. The full legal and financial implications beginning to dawn on her. I watched her carefully, remembering all the family treasures she had sold or discarded, the heirlooms she had casually destroyed. Her schemes were unraveling before my eyes, just as Dad had anticipated. The turning point had arrived, and Patricia was finally realizing she had severely overplayed her hand. "This meeting is over until my attorney arrives," Patricia declared, standing up and gathering her purse. Her hands trembled slightly, betraying her composed facade. "You are welcome to reschedule," Marcus replied calmly. "However, certain facts remain unchanged. The property at 247 Maple Street legally belongs to Natalie Mitchell. Any sale would be invalid, and your actions thus far may constitute fraud." Patricia's real estate agent, Diane, looked increasingly distressed. "I was assured the title was clear. My brokerage could lose its license over this." "Perhaps you should have conducted more thorough due diligence," Marcus suggested. "A simple title search at the beginning of the listing process would have revealed the ownership transfer." "Patricia told me the will was all we needed," Diane explained weakly. "And you took her word without verification?" Jeffrey, the Bradford's agent, asked incredulously. "That is Real Estate 101. The Bradfords were having an intense whispered conversation. Finally, Thomas Bradford addressed the room. "We want full restitution, not just our earnest money, but all expenses incurred in this failed transaction. Moving costs, storage fees, temporary housing, and legal consultation." Patricia snorted dismissively. "That is hardly my problem. If anyone is at fault, it is the title company for not discovering this alleged deed transfer sooner." Ms. Garcia from the title company bristled. "The transfer was properly recorded with the county. Our preliminary search would have found it if we had not been pressured to expedite the process based on assurances from your agent." Diane sank lower in her chair. "Furthermore," Marcus added, "we have documentation of numerous items removed from the property without the owner's consent. Family heirlooms, furniture, artwork, all belonging to Natalie as part of the property transfer." This was news to me. I shot Marcus a questioning look. "Your father was very thorough," he explained quietly. "The transfer included all fixtures and furnishings specifically listed in an addendum. Patricia had no right to sell or remove those items." Patricia's expression cycled through shock, anger, and finally calculation. "Robert would never have done this," she insisted. "He must have been coerced or confused by his medication. I will contest this transfer. I was his wife." "You were his wife for 5 years," I reminded her. "I was his daughter for 27. And he was perfectly lucid when he made these arrangements." Marcus slid another document across the table. "This is a statement from Dr. Levine, your husband's oncologist, confirming Robert was mentally competent during his treatments. We also have statements from his hospice nurse and 2 longtime friends who visited regularly during his illness. All will testify to his mental clarity and determination to protect his family legacy." Patricia's confidence visibly faltered. "This is a temporary setback. No judge will uphold this transfer once they understand the circumstances." "What circumstances?" I challenged her. "That you married my father for his money? That you disappeared whenever he needed actual care? That you started selling his possessions before his body was even cold? That is not true." Patricia protested, but her eyes started away. "We have statements from neighbors who saw moving trucks at the house the week after the funeral," Marcus noted, "and receipts from auction houses and consignment shops showing items from the house being sold throughout the past 3 months. All without the property owner's consent." Thomas Bradford stood abruptly. "I think we have heard enough. Jeffrey, please ensure our deposit is returned today. We will expect an itemized restitution proposal by Monday." He turned to Patricia. "And we may consider additional legal action for misrepresentation and fraud." Patricia blanched. "You cannot sue me. I thought I owned the house." "Yet you signed legal documents affirming your ownership without verification," Jeffrey pointed out. "That is negligent at best, fraudulent at worst." As the Bradfords and their agent gathered their materials to leave, Marcus addressed Ms. Garcia. "Please ensure the property listing is removed immediately from all platforms. Any showings or open houses should be canceled." "Already done," she confirmed. "The listing was frozen as soon as we discovered the title issue." Patricia sat stunned. her carefully constructed plans collapsing around her. "What about the house?" she finally asked. "Where am I supposed to live?" "That is up to Natalie," Marcus replied. "As the legal owner, she determines who may occupy the property." All eyes turned to me. I had imagined this moment for months, the satisfaction of watching Patricia realize she had lost everything. But sitting across from her now, I felt only a hollow vindication mingled with sadness for what my father had endured in his final months. "You have 48 hours to remove your personal belongings," I said evenly. "Anything belonging to my father, or that was in the house prior to your marriage stays. I will have an inventory team present during your move to ensure compliance." 48 hours? That is impossible. "I need at least 2 weeks," Patricia protested. "You have had 3 months to sell or dispose of my family's possessions without permission," I reminded her. 48 hours is generous under the circumstances. "And what about the things I have already sold? Some of those items were quite valuable." Marcus interjected, "We have compiled a list of missing items with approximate values. You will be expected to provide either the items themselves or financial compensation." "This is robbery," Patricia hissed. "No," I corrected her. "Robbery is what you have been doing since my father died. This is justice." As the meeting concluded, Patricia's facade finally crumbled completely. "You have no idea what it was like," she said, her voice breaking. "Being married to a man who always put his daughter first. Even dying, he thought only of you." "He thought of both of us," I replied. "He provided for you in his will, the business, the investments, the retirement accounts. He just made sure you could not take everything." Patricia gathered her belongings with shaking hands. "This is not over." "Actually, it is," Marcus stated firmly. "Should you choose to contest the transfer, we have ample evidence of your behavior during Robert's illness and after his death. Evidence that would not reflect well on you in court. My advice as a legal professional would be to accept the situation and move forward." After Patricia and the others had left, I remained in the conference room with Marcus, trying to process everything that had happened. "What now?" I asked. "Now we reclaim your home," he replied with a gentle smile. "Patricia will likely test boundaries, but legally, she has no ground to stand on. The property is yours, as your father intended." "What about the Bradfords?" "They seemed like nice people caught in a terrible situation. Unfortunately, that happens in real estate transactions sometimes. They will recover their deposit and likely seek additional compensation from Patricia for their troubles. Their quarrel is with her, not you." As I drove back to Sarah's apartment afterward, a weight lifted from my shoulders. After months of watching Patricia dismantle my family home piece by piece, I could finally reclaim it. The house where Dad and I had built so many memories would remain in our family, protected from Patricia's greed, just as he had planned. "You did it, Dad," I whispered, imagining him beside me. We did it. The morning after our confrontation at Marcus's office, I arrived at the house with Sarah and 2 off-duty police officers Marcus had arranged to serve as witnesses. Patricia's luxury SUV was in the driveway, and moving boxes were stacked on the front porch. She had clearly been working through the night. When she opened the door, Patricia looked nothing like the polished, confident woman I had grown accustomed to seeing. Her hair was disheveled, her expensive blouse wrinkled, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. She regarded me with a mixture of resentment and defeat. "I need more time," she said immediately. 48 hours is not enough to sort through 5 years of marriage. "You have had 3 months," I reminded her. "And you have spent that time selling what was not yours to sell." Patricia stepped aside reluctantly, allowing us to enter. The house was in disarray, half-packed boxes everywhere, empty spaces on walls where artwork had hung, furniture draped with moving blankets. I tried not to show how much it hurt to see my childhood home in such a state. "These officers will remain while you finish packing your personal items," I explained. "The inventory specialist will arrive shortly to document what remains of the original furnishings." "This is harassment," Patricia muttered, but without conviction. Her fight had largely evaporated since yesterday's revelation. "This is protection of property," I corrected her. "Given your track record, I would be foolish not to have witnesses." As Patricia continued packing, I walked through each room, noting what was missing. Dad's antique desk from the study, the grandfather clock from the hallway, the oil paintings my grandmother had collected, the Persian rugs. Even the custom light fixtures had been replaced with builder-grade alternatives. In the master bedroom, I noticed the closet door was ajar. Inside, partially hidden behind Patricia's remaining clothes, was a stack of boxes labeled Goodwill. Suspicious. I opened the top box and discovered family photo albums she had claimed were water-damaged. Beneath them was my grandmother's jewelry box she had insisted must have been misplaced by the cleaning service. "Sarah," I called, my voice tight with anger. "Could you come here, please?" Sarah documented the discovery with her phone while Patricia watched from the doorway, her expression defiant. "I was going to return those," she claimed unconvincingly. "In a box marked Goodwill? Hidden in the back of your closet?" Sarah asked incredulously. The inventory specialist, a meticulous woman named Helen, arrived and began methodically documenting every item remaining in the house, cross-referencing against the list Dad had created before the property transfer. Patricia hovered anxiously as Helen photographed and noted the condition of furniture, artwork, and fixtures. "What about the things I purchased?" Patricia demanded when Helen marked a relatively new sofa as property to remain. "That couch cost $4,000. I chose the fabric myself." Helen checked her documentation. According to the property transfer agreement, all furnishings purchased during the marriage using joint funds or accounts belonging to Robert Mitchell are included in the transfer. Patricia's face reddened. "That is theft." "That is the legal agreement your husband established," Helen replied calmly. "If you have receipts showing purchases made solely from your personal accounts, not joint marital accounts, those items would be excluded." Of course, Patricia had no such receipts. Throughout their marriage, Dad had paid for virtually everything from his accounts, giving Patricia a generous allowance and access to his credit cards. She had contributed nothing financially to the household. By late afternoon, Patricia had packed her clothing, personal items, and the few pieces of furniture Helen had designated as her separate property. As the movers loaded the last boxes into the truck, Patricia paused on the front porch, looking back at the house. "I did love him, you know," she said quietly. "In my own way." I did not reply. Any response felt inadequate in the face of her actions over the past months. After a moment, she continued to her car without another word. I watched as both vehicles drove away, carrying Patricia out of my life hopefully forever. Once they were gone, the house felt eerily silent. Sarah squeezed my hand. "You did it. You got your home back." "What is left of it?" I sighed, looking around at the half-empty rooms. The next few weeks were dedicated to reclaiming the house in every sense. I moved back into my childhood bedroom, which Patricia had converted into a home gym. I repainted walls, replaced fixtures, and scoured antique shops for pieces similar to those Patricia had sold. Marcus helped me file insurance claims for the missing items covered under Dad's homeowner's policy. He also initiated legal proceedings to recover the value of family heirlooms Patricia had disposed of without authority. Most would never be recovered, but the financial compensation would help restore the house to something resembling its former state. The Bradfords reached a settlement with Patricia, recouping not only their earnest money but additional compensation for their troubles. I met with them briefly to apologize for their involvement in the situation. To my surprise, Emily Bradford hugged me. "Your father must have been an extraordinary man," she said, "to have protected you so thoroughly even after he was gone." "He was," I agreed, tears welling in my eyes. The house was important to him because it was important to our family. It was never just about the property value. 1 month after reclaiming the house, I made a surprising discovery. While cleaning out the attic, I found a loose floorboard near the chimney. Beneath it was a small fireproof box containing items Dad had hidden, the original deed to the house from my grandparents, my mother's wedding and engagement rings, and a USB drive labeled for Natalie. That evening, I plugged the drive into my laptop. It contained hundreds of family photos Dad had digitized, video clips of birthdays and Christmases throughout my childhood, and a recorded message he had made during his illness. Seeing his face and hearing his voice again was both painful and healing. He spoke about his hopes for my future, his pride in the woman I had become, and his confidence that I would preserve our family legacy. "The house is just walls and a roof," he said in the recording, his voice weaker than I remembered, but his eyes still bright. "The home is what you make inside it. Fill it with love and laughter again, Natalie. That is all I ever wanted for you." Gradually, I did exactly that. I invited friends for dinner parties in the dining room where Dad and I had shared countless meals. I restored his workshop in the garage and learned to use his tools, completing projects he had started. I planted his favorite flowers in the garden and sat on the porch swing during summer evenings, just as we used to do. 6 months after Patricia's departure, Marcus called with news. "The legal proceedings are complete," he informed me. "Patricia has paid the settlement for the items she sold illegally. She has also signed an agreement never to contest the property transfer again." "Where is she now?" I asked, more out of curiosity than concern. "Florida, I believe. She purchased a condominium with the proceeds from your father's investment accounts. Those were legitimately hers through the will." I felt a sense of closure. Patricia had not walked away empty-handed. Dad had provided for her as his wife, but she had failed in her attempt to take everything. Particularly the one thing that mattered most to me. The house on Maple Street remains my home today. Sometimes I imagine Dad walking through the rooms, noticing the changes I have made while appreciating the traditions I have maintained. The house bears the imprints of multiple generations now, my grandparents, my parents, and now me. Perhaps someday I will pass it to children of my own, continuing the legacy Dad fought so hard to protect. What I learned from this experience goes beyond property rights or legal maneuvers. I learned that my father's love extended beyond his lifetime, that his wisdom anticipated challenges I never saw coming, and that sometimes the most powerful position is not revealing all your cards at once. I also learned about my own strength, that I could face betrayal and loss without losing myself in bitterness. That patience and strategic thinking often triumph over immediate confrontation. These are lessons I carry forward, gifts from my father as valuable as the house itself. Have you ever had to fight for something that was rightfully yours? Or perhaps you have experienced a betrayal by someone you should have been able to trust. I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story of reclaiming what was mine resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And remember, sometimes the most important battles are won not through confrontation, but through preparation and patience. Until next time.